Hello students, welcome to Bajirao Ias Academy. So today we will discuss some of the most important news articles given in the Hindu newspaper, right? So before going into the discussion, let's discuss the yesterday given practice question for prelims. With reference to Foreign Contribution Regulation Amendment Act 2020, which of the following statements are correct? The option. The first statement is under the act, foreign contribution cannot be transferred to any other person unless such person is also registered for that purpose. See, this statement is correct. So the second statement is the act states that foreign contributions must be received only in a Foreign Contribution Regulation Act bank account opened in the State Bank of India in New Delhi branch. So this statement is also correct. The third statement, the act increased administrative expenses through foreign funds by an organization compared to Foreign Contribution Regulation Act 2010. See, this statement is incorrect. The reason is the act reduced the administrative expenses through the foreign funds, right? So the correct answer for this question is option A. So we also discuss some of the provisions of Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, right? So the foreign contribution cannot be transferred to any other account of other person unless such person is also registered for that purpose. If the other person is also registered for receiving the foreign contributions, only then the foreign contributions can be transferred. So the amendments also forbid sub-granting of NGOs to smaller NGOs who work at the grassroots level. The foreign contributions must be received only in a Foreign Contribution Regulation Act account opened in the State Bank of India, New Delhi. No other bank account anywhere in India. So no funds other than the foreign contribution should be received or deposited in this account. So the usage provisions regarding the usage of Aadhaar. The Act makes it compulsory for all trustees to register their Aadhaar card with Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. So the Aadhaar card is mandatory for identification document for all office bearers, directors, and other key functionaries of an NGO. Their Aadhaar cards are mandatory and necessary. So there are some restrictions on the utilization of foreign contribution. This act gives the government powers to stop utilization of funds by an organization through a summary inquiry. The government can order a summary inquiry, and the summary inquiry limit the NGO's expenditure in different activities. So this reduction in use of foreign contributions for administrative purposes, right? So it decreased the administrative purposes expenses reduced to 20% from earlier 50%. You know, under the disguise of excessive administrative expenses, the foreign funds will be maybe misutilized by the NGOs. So therefore, there was a cap of 20%. There is a cap of 20% on administrative expenses. There is also a provision of surrender certificate. The act allows the center to permit a person to surrender their registration certificate. So these are all the provisions of the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. Since the government has been imposing strict regulations on the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, especially NGOs, foreign funding received NGOs, this Foreign Contribution Regulation Act is very important for the examination point of view. Now, this is the today's practice question. The question is, consider the following statements regarding the Speaker of India. He is provided with security of tenure. His salaries and allowances are fixed by the Parliament. There is a convention that Speaker has to resign from the party and remain politically neutral. So choose the correct answer option, and write it in the comment box. Okay. So these are all prelims practice questions, and let's discuss today's important news articles. So these are the list of important news articles for today. Important news articles for mains. So science for all. LIGO India must contribute to the communities it needs sustenance from. So LIGO India is an observatory set up by India. So in this context, we will discuss this LIGO India project by the government of India. So House panel apprised of collusive threat from China and Pakistan. This is about a war, a two-front war that India is emancipating, right, from both Pakistan and China. So Ministry of Home Affairs to provide financial assistance to prison inmates. In India, the problem of under trial prisoners is very high. So therefore, the MHA is coming up with the provision of providing assistance to under trial prisoners, especially if they are from socio-economically backward sections. So these are list of the important news articles for preliminary examination point of view. So let's discuss today's first news article. The first news article for today's discussion is LEGO India project. The science for all. LEGO India must contribute to the communities it needs sustenance from. Now, before proceeding into this article, let's just discuss what is the LEGO India project, or the LEGO. So LEGO is Advanced Laser Interferometer Observatory, Gravitational Wave Observatory. Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory. So this is at the center of path breaking find, right? Now, this is to record the most violent and cataclysmic events in the universe occurring millions of light years away. So the events which are taking place in the universe are measured or recorded by the LIGO observatory. It can detect gravitational waves in volume of 1 billion cubic light years, covering about 1 million Milky Way type of galaxies, right? So this is the LIGO, the observatory, Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory. So LIGO experiment is an example of extreme engineering chasing the impossible dream, right? For example, the observing universal phenomena happening across the millions of light years away. That could shed that could shed a light on the origins of the universe and how the universe has been expanding, and the space time. So it shed light on all these phenomena. So, in fact, US has a twin LEGO installations, one in Livingstone and the other in Hanford, Washington, right? Now, so how this LEGO works? When a gravitational wave comes through it, uh, it is in this shape, right? This is L-shaped. The gravitational wave observatory, the LEGO, is built in an L-shaped manner. When gravitational wave comes through it, it stretches space in direction, right? So it stretches space in one direction and squeezes space in the other direction. So it is an L shaped, and in the one direction it stretches the space, and on the other direction it squeezes the space when the gravitational waves are hit, or when the gravitational waves are observed by this observatory. So to detect the gravitational wave, we should be able to tell when something changes in length by few parts to in 10 to the power of 23. So these are all some technical details, and they are not very important for the exam point of view, right? uh, just remember LEGO, and USA has set up two LEGO observatories, and it is an L shaped. And when gravitational waves hit this observatory, one part of it stretches and the other part of it squeezes. Just remember this much, and also remember these 2 points. So it is a most violent and cataclysmic events in the universe occurring millions of light years away. So can detect gravitational waves in a volume of 1 billion cubic light years, covering about a 1 million Milky Way type of galaxies. Now, India is also plan to set up such a LIGO observatory in India. However, India and the society itself uh, is not ready to, you know, society very often uh, poses a stiff resistance to such projects. For example, Neutrino Observatory project in Tamil Nadu is one such example. People are opposing because uh, these observatories are restricting the movement of the people. So therefore, in this context, let's try and discuss this news article. So Union Cabinet approved setting up of gravitational wave detection facility in Maharashtra. So with the value of financial outlay of 2,600 crore. So it consists of a detector called laser interferometer gravitational wave observatory, right? So it is already built. A twin observatory is already built in USA. The government has given in principle approval for setting up of the gravitational wave detection facility in Maharashtra. So the gravitational waves they were detected in the year 2016 by the gravitational wave observatories in US. So it launched a new era in the astronomy. It led to the new era in the astronomy. So India is planning to set up a third detector. So this will be built in India as part of a LEGO India project, right? So this is to improve, the project is to improve the detectors and the collective ability to pinpoint the sources of gravitational waves in the galaxy. Uh, the galaxy and the Milky Way and the universe is, uh, you know, uh, have a large expanse. Primarily, the aim of the project is to observe the source of such gravitational waves, the pinpoint accuracy in the source of such gravitational waves, so that it gives important inputs uh, for our research, for our space research, and a significant breakthroughs, understanding the phenomena of the universe, right? So so the cabinet approval throws two opportunities. We have discussed the cabinet have given the in principle approval for setting up of LEGO India Observatory. So it throws up or it gives it provides two opportunities. So the first opportunity is India could become a global site of gravitational wave or the gravitational physics research. Since after US, only India is setting up of such a LEGO observatory, therefore India could become a global site of gravitational physics research. And it will aid in training and handling of precision technologies and also the sophisticated control systems. So the observatory and the research will help us in aiding training and also handling in precision technologies and sophisticated control systems which are related to the space technology. So it ultimately cementing reputation for successfully running an experimental big science project. In fact, LEGO is a big science project because India is the only country after US which has been envisioned setting up of a LEGO project. So therefore, it is without a doubt a big science project. So it's cementing on the reputation of successfully running an experimental science project. So this was the first opportunity for India, right? And what are the requirements within the first opportunity? There are some requirements for successfully implementing, completing, or executing the project. So the one such requirement is timely release of funds for construction of this LEGO project. So in India, due to financial constraints, several projects are delayed because lack of financial support from the center or the respective governments. And it should be followed by issuing the allocated resources without delay. So if it is delayed, then the set objectives may not be achieved or fulfilled. So therefore, the government should issue the allocated resources without any delay and also release funds for the construction in a time bound manner. So that was the first opportunity, right? The second opportunity is that the LEGO India can demonstrate to recon intelligently with Indian society's relationship. So, from ancient times, Indian society is integrated itself with science and science related aspects. So that using such a big science projects, such big science projects, the we need to demonstrate our ability to recon intelligently with Indian society, integrating Indian society with the benefits of such big science projects. So therefore, the benefits of these projects could be extended to these communities, and also such big science projects would get an active support from the people and the communities. Okay, this is the second opportunity. So India always had a contested relationship with such projects. Right, so what is a contested relationship with such projects? If government has decided to set up such a project anywhere in the country, then people generally uh, not ready, or people generally oppose such projects. For example, recently the Challakere Science City and stalled India-based neutrino observatory. Both the Challakere Science City and the stalled India-based neutrino observatory have also faced a stiff opposition from the people. So therefore, India always have a contested relationship with such large projects because of apprehensions among the people, or people may feel that such projects alienate, displace people from their uh, natural locations. I mean, from their, uh, I mean, it in fact impacts their livelihoods. So therefore, they always have an apprehension about such big projects. So they need a large tracts of the reasons for contested relationship of people with such a big projects is because these projects require large tracts of land. They cannot be set up in a land in a very smaller area. They need a large tracts of land, and with inevitable implications for land use change. Once these projects are set up, there will be an inevitable changes within the land use. For example, the movement of the people would be curtailed, and the in fact, if any traditional or the tribal communities living in that particular area, they will be displaced from that particular area. So there will be an inevitable consequences of land use change, and also the land rights, a contest over the land rights. People living in that area have rights over the land. So therefore, displacement is a violation of their land rights, and especially in the backdrop of sustainable use of natural resources and carbon sequestration targets. Right. So in the backdrop of sustainable use of natural resources and carbon sequestration targets, setting up such a projects would have a, would have a negative consequences, not just within the locality, but the entire country. Right. So the contested relationship with such projects. Uh, Now this is explaining why India have a contested relationship with such a projects. India may not be able to meet its set targets. See, why it is saying that the sustainable use of natural resources, when large tracts of land required for setting up such a projects, then you need to clear the forest, deforestation takes place. Then when deforestation takes place, the carbon sequestration commitments given by India to the international community will not be met, and sustainable use of natural resources is also not possible. It not just lead to the deforestation of an area, it also leads to the displacement of the wild population or disturbance of their activities. So therefore, it is in contrast to sustainable use of natural resources and carbon sequestration targets, and it also violating the human rights. Right? So the best example for this is the Hawaii's 30-meter telescope set up by US. So what happened was the Hawaii after setting up of the Hawaii 30-meter telescope, the locals, so locals consider a land is a sacred land, and within the sacred land, the Hawaii 30-meter telescope was built. So, therefore, it also amounts to the violation of their indigenous rights, and also the scientific community and the government not paying enough heed to their uh, beliefs or their belief systems. So, this in a way also violates their human rights. So one contention there was that land had been rendered physically inaccessible. So if such projects, they are strategically very important, they are concerning, even concern to national security also. So therefore, once such projects are set up in a particular piece of land, they will be made physically inaccessible for the people. Now people can go to such places earlier, but now uh, those places physically inaccessible after setting up of such projects. In fact, science had become an agent of colonization. So this is in the context that uh, once such projects are announced, uh, so those projects require a large tracts of land, and in fact those projects also alienating people from their rights over a particular piece of land. So, therefore, it says that science had become an agent of colonization. So, similar criticism has also trailed these experimental big science undertakings, including INO, India Neutron Observatory. So, in fact, such apprehensions, such criticisms are also faced by big science undertakings, including the India Neutrino Observatory. However, the big science projects, the LEGO India, the INO, still have the responsibility to define their public value. So there is a need to define the public value. That means if once such projects are set up in these places, then the public value of such projects should be explained to uh, every stakeholder in a more effective manner, so that the public could understand the value of such products, and they welcome such projects and experiments. So the beyond benefits of national industry and research, this is not just important for the national industry and research, this will also benefit the people in general, right? So the second opportunity Lego India has is it amplified the context of the present moment. So to build such a facility contributes to the communities. It is not just benefits the national industry and the research arena, it will also have a significant benefits for the communities. So from which it requires sustenance and knowledge. In fact, these projects required sustenance and knowledge from the communities regularly. So, therefore, the public could engage with such projects in a good faith. And the concerns about there are we have earlier discussed there are several concerns about the land use alienation and other resources and conduct of public outreach. So there should be a public outreach campaign explaining the benefits or the advantages or the public value of such programs, and should there is a need to alleviate fears among the people about the land use and resource conservation, etc. But the starting requirement of the Lego India project uh, is to what all Lego India. So the starting requirement is to contemplate what all Lego India can do for India. So the first and foremost requirement of this project is that what Lego India uh, can do for India and how it could change the scientific space research architecture in India. So that is what we need to contemplate. Once we are able to contemplate, once we are able to weigh the advantages and disadvantages, then definitely there will be a larger public outreach program explaining the benefits of LEGO India program to those communities so that they could readily welcome such a big science projects in India, and that will be ultimately a game changer, right? So this is all about the LEGO India project, and the government is planning to set up a LEGO India project in Maharashtra. So now let's look into the another news article. So the Parliamentary Standing Committee so apprised a collusive threat from China and Pakistan. In recent past, we are hearing about the two-front war India may face in coming times, both from China and uh, Pakistan, because India has had an aggressive uh, neighborhood, China in the north, uh, Pakistan in the west, and the growing relationship and ties between uh, Beijing and Islamabad is also a concern for India, because the China, in fact, arming Pakistan, uh, providing it weapons, providing it with technology, and in fact, the China-Pakistan economic corridor uh, is also passing through Pakistan. So therefore, the relations between these two countries have significantly increased. And in fact, the Doklam crisis and the Galwan clashes and the aggressiveness of China at the LAC and Indian Ocean also increases threat of the two-front war. So therefore, the Parliamentary Standing Committee carefully reviewed the capacity of the Indian Navy tackling the Chinese and the Pakistanis collusive threat. So this article in this context. So the House panel apprised a collusive threat from China and Pakistan. So Indian Navy currently have a strength of 130 ships and submarines, right? So actually India's any country's naval might is very important to effectively tackle the threats, the security threats from any foreign country. In the context of China, it is very important for India to rapidly improve and upgrade its naval capacity, its naval assets. So, the Indian Navy, as of now, have just 130 ships and submarines. So, the target is 200 ships so that we could effectively face any threat emanating from any foreign country, especially the China. So as of now, uh, we are targeting to have a 200 uh, vessels, 200 ships. It is likely that we will have 155 to 160 ships in a very near future. So this was the information given by the Chief of Defense Staff to the Parliamentary Standing Committee, because it has been reviewing the collusive nature of China and Pakistan and a security threat for India. So in opposition to India, China now have 355 ships. Chinese Navy have a 355 ships, and it has grown as the world's largest navy in terms of numbers. So in terms of numbers, now China is the world's largest army. So the committee also apprised possibility of collusive threat from both China and Pakistan, because the China China have been, uh, in fact, helping expand or to upgrade Pakistan's navy. So, therefore, the Parliamentary Standing Committee, apprised this uh, the collusive nature of the collusive threat emanating from these two countries. So Indian Navy's strength today is 131 ships. Earlier we have discussed, and Indian Navy targeted to acquire the ships of 200, but this would likely go up to the 155 to 160 ships in terms of numbers. So uh, the standing committee says that the parliamentary standing committee says that so, within a 4 to 5 years, Chinese Navy will have a strength of 555 ships. That is a huge increase in the Chinese military capability. So once if Chinese military capability has been increasing, it would further increase its presence in the Indian Ocean region. India traditionally considered this as its backyard. So if its presence has been increasing in the Indian Ocean, it in fact poses a security threat because Chinese surveillance and reconnaissance ships in the Indian Ocean will track India's the security assets, will track India's the movement of naval ships, and it would also significantly increase the influence in India's neighborhood. In fact, recent times, India told the Myanmar that please do something to reduce Chinese presence in the Coco Island, that is very near to India's eastern coast, right? So this is Indian Navy's the current helicopter strength. So there are, however, Indian Navy has been facing a shortfall in planes and helicopters, reconnaissance and transport. So any shortfall in the military on the naval assets of Indian Navy will significantly impact India's capacity and potential to uh, effectively fight any attempt to breach the security of our country. So, therefore, it is important that Indian Navy should further enhance its capacity, further enhance its fleet. So, so along with their numbers, their operations have expanded. So, Chinese ships have increased, and their operations are also increased. So it is important to note that at any point of time, at least 5 to 9 ships are operating in the Indian Ocean region. So they are continuously operating in the Indian Ocean region, tracking the movement of Indian naval ships in the region. So their research vessels are also deployed. The research vessels are also deployed into the Indian Ocean region, and they pose a security threat for India, right? So it is expected that by 2030, Pakistani Navy is projected to expand by 50 percentage with the help of China, and this will further increase a threat for India, right? So the Parliamentary Standing Committee assessed the threat perception in this regard, emanating from both China and Pakistan. So therefore, the committee is of the opinion that uh, the threat perception has increased manifold in the view of hostile nations in our neighborhood, both China and Pakistan. So the threat perception has increased a manifold. So therefore, the committee suggested that there is one solution for this. The solution is increasing trade in the Indian Ocean region and also increasing the interdependence among these two countries. So that, in a way, could reduce the threat of a war, or threat of a collusive war um, of China and Pakistan on India, right? So in this backdrop, let's also discuss the two-front war, the two-front military threat from China and Pakistan. So in the early 200s, uh, the threat of the two-front military war led to India in early 200s develop a strategy. So India developed a strategy based on dissuasion to prevent any loss of its territory, right? So the military was never resourced accordingly. In fact, India understood the nature of the two front war. However, the military was not resourced accordingly. The military resourcing the military, that means that developing the capacity of the military and also increasing the fleet size and also developing the technologies have not resourced accordingly, that accordingly the threat, according the to the threat perception. However, leaving open several serious vulnerabilities on the Indian side. There are several serious vulnerabilities because we have not resourced our armed forces accordingly. So it says that there has been some sort of improvement in India, China, India, Pakistan relationship, but I don't think that there is an improvement in relations, especially after Doklam standoff and the Galwan uh, crisis. And Pakistan has also attempted uh, cross-border terror attacks on Indian side. So therefore, I don't see any improvement in the relationship between India and China, India and Pakistan. So therefore, the threat of two-front war is still alive. So the two-front military threat remains a formidable challenges with no easy answers. So it remains a formidable challenge for India. Both China and Pakistan attacking India on at same time. So that would be a serious security challenge for India, keeping in mind India's limited security uh, preparedness, right? So India does not have the enough economic wherewithal to resource its military to fight a two-front war. India's capacity is limited to fight a two-front war, right? So the alternative is seeking partnerships with other countries. For example, India is developing its cooperation, its ties with the West, especially the US. And Quad is an example. India is also inking the partnerships with the like-minded nations like Japan, Australia. So therefore, India has been seeking an alternative partnerships. So, given that the Quad initiative, India is signed with the Quad initiative, but it is still in the early stages of development. So, still cannot say that it provides a reliable protection for India from the two-front war. Now, what is the smartest choice for New Delhi? So, therefore, the smart choice for New Delhi is neither fight nor prepare to fight for two front war. Instead, India should seek durable and enduring peace with one of its adversaries. So, it is suggesting that instead of fighting the two front war, either with China or with Pakistan, uh, India should develop an enduring and durable peace so that the threat of two front war could be reduced. The chances of two front war could be reduced. However, with China, India have the contesting relationship and strategic. China is a strategic competitor, and this has been suggesting that Pakistan could be an option for a permanent peace, so that the threat of uh, two-front war could be minimized. So this is all about the two-front war and the collusive threat emanating from Pakistan and China to Indian uh, side, and also India's need to further expand its capacities and capabilities, the military capabilities. Right? India traditionally known as Indian Navy is traditionally known as net security provider in the Indian Ocean region for the littoral states. Why it is called as net security provider? Because of it is engaged in the humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, anti-piracy operations, and India have an active and strong ties with countries, the Indian Ocean region, littoral countries like Sri Lanka, Maldives, and India is the first responder of 2004 tsunami. India have the Act East policy. India is recognized as a major player in the Indo-Pacific region. So Indian Ocean Rim Association, uh, Indian Ocean Naval Symposium, the Security and Growth for All in the region is a new such initiative. So, cooperation and engagement, security dialogue, naval visits, maritime exercises, humanitarian assistance, disaster relief. So, different India's participation is diverse in the Indian Ocean region. So therefore, India is rightly called as the net security provider in the Indian Ocean region. So there are some statistics about India's anti-piracy operations. So this is all about the two-front war and India's role as a net security provider in the region. So the next news article for today's discussion is the Ministry of Home Affairs. The Ministry of Home Affairs extending financial assistance to states to provide uh, financial assistance to prison inmates. In India, the problem is there are huge number of uh, uh, prisoners. I mean, they even expand. I mean, that even increases. That even have a huge number of under trial prisoners, even exceeding the capacity. So just first look into this, some of the statistics of under trial prisoners in India, and then we will discuss this news article. Okay. So more than 68 percentage of those incarcerated were under trials. So under trials were uh, the trial has been taking place. So they are not sentenced yet, and they are not sentenced yet, and the bail is also not given for them, even though they are eligible to get bail, but because of their uh, socio-economic backwardness, and most of them are from the underprivileged sections, and they do not have enough financial capacity to provide a security amount of pay a security amount to get a bail, and most of them do not have the legal representation. So therefore, majority of these prisoners remain under trial. So this has been leading to the overcrowding of prisons, right? So more than 68%, that is a huge number. So more than 68% of those were under trial. So the majority of them are poor and were unable to execute bail bonds or provide sureties. Whenever the court provide bail to a prisoner, he has to provide a surety amount. Because of their poor background, they are unable to provide surety. The surety, they are unable to pay the surety amount. So this report also says that the maximum number of deaths, 49 in Maharashtra prisons, took place due to heart-related ailments. So in maximum number of deaths took place in Maharashtra, right? Because of when prisons are becoming overcrowded, then that lead to poor sanitation conditions, and people are affected with communicable diseases, and that also leads to the compromise in the conditions, the living conditions of prisoners in these prisons, right? So the plight of under trials, so they lack medical access and inadequate number. In fact, the under trial prisoners are also deprived of the medical access. The rate of suicide among prisoners is also very high, because since the proceedings in the court are taking place, and there has been a huge delay in the Indian judiciary, and they are not yet sentenced, they are not yet convicted, still they are in jails. So therefore, the stress, the pressure uh, might increase, and that lead to the suicide rate. So the rate of suicide among prisoners uh, increased by 28%, from 77 suicides in 2015, 102 suicides in 2017. So therefore, it is important that these under trial prisoners should be provided with assistance so that they could get a bail, right? So reasons for overcrowding of jails. Overcrowding of jails is one of the most serious problem in India. What are the reasons for overcrowding of jails? So one is a judicial backlogs. There has been a pendency of cases because of a huge vacancies in the courts, and also uh, lack of infrastructure within the judiciary, also leading to a judicial backlogs. So more than 1 crore cases are pending in judiciary across India. So therefore, this also in a way increases the under trial prisoners in India. And also the capacity of prisons is inadequate. uh, there are more number of uh, prisoners. However, the prisons in India are uh, less compared to the number of prisoners. So therefore, uh, most of the times the capacity of these jails is, you know they have a more prisoners than their capacity to host those prisoners. And most of these prisons were made during the colonial times. So, no legal aid to the poor, despite the National Legal Services Authorities Act passed to provide legal aid to the poor. Most of the under trial prisoners receive no legal aid, and a huge delay in getting bail because they are unable to provide the surety amount. So therefore, there has been a huge delay in getting bail. So unnecessary arrest further increases the jail expenditure because there is a lack of police reforms. Now the different experts, the security um, uh, experts have been suggesting that there should be a comprehensive police reforms. Due to lack of police reforms and professional investigation, there there are very often the uh, unnecessary arrests of people, and that further increases the overcrowding of jails and the under trial prisoners. Now, let's look and discuss this article. MHA to provide financial assistance to prison inmates. So the Ministry of Home Affairs said that it will provide financial assistance to state governments. So to help underprivileged prisoners who are unable to get bail or secure release from the prisoners due to financial hardships. Since they are facing the financial hardships, they are unable to get bail. So the financial help provided by the Ministry of Home Affairs to these under trial prisoners will help them secure bail. So this is in line with the recent budgetary announcement, that is support for poor prisoners provided by the central government. The scheme envisages that financial support to poor persons who are in prisons and they unable to afford the penalty amount or bail amount. Right, when the court grants bail, uh, we already discussed that the prisoners have to submit some amount of money as a surety. So this scheme will enable underprivileged prisoners, majority of whom belong to the socially disadvantaged groups. So since they are socially disadvantaged groups, they lack the necessary financial capacity to pay for their bail. They also belong to the marginal communities with lower levels of education and income. So, to further strengthen the process of providing financial assistance to the under trial prisoners, technology will be used. The e-prison platform will be used to further strengthen this financial assistance to under trial prisoners, and also envisages strengthening district legal services authorities. The district legal services authorities are set up under National Legal Services Authorities Act 1987 to provide free legal aid to the poor individuals. So strengthening district legal services authorities will help identify such poor and marginalized prisoners, thereby extending the financial help for them. So sensitization and capacity building of different stakeholders. So to ensure quality legal aid made available to the poor prisoners, identifying different stakeholders and then sensitizing them and building capacity among them. So prisoners are an important part of the criminal justice system because they play a significant role in upholding the rule of law. So they uphold the rule of law and they also play a very important role in criminal justice system. There are some statistics given here. The Prison Statistics India Report 2021. So over 5.54 lakh people were lodged in prison by 2021, and the total capacity of jails is just 4.25 lakh. So the capacity of prisons is just 4.25 lakh. However, the total number of inmates in different prisons is 5.54 lakh. So therefore, there's a huge occupancy rate of 130%. That increases the occupancy, the capacity of these prisons. So this is all about the financial assistance being extended by the Ministry of Home Affairs to the under trial prisoners, right? So let's look into the another news article. So Himachal Pradesh is considering legalizing cultivation of cannabis, right? So in this backdrop, let's look into this news article. Cannabis is a plant. Generally, the cultivation of cannabis is prohibited uh, because of its nature as a serious drug. Okay, so in order to prevent the drug trafficking, the cultivation of cannabis prohibited in different states. However, cannabis have a very significant industrial and healthcare uh, benefits or applications. So therefore, Himachal Pradesh is considering to allow cultivation of cannabis. The state government was considering legalizing cultivation of cannabis. Uh, the cannabis cultivation would play a significant role in generating revenue for the state. Besides, it would benefit for the patients. So as we have discussed, it have a several medicinal properties. So therefore, it plays a significant role in generating revenues for the state government, and it would be beneficial for the patients as it has many medicinal properties. The medicinal properties we will discuss in the later part, right? So it could also be used in the for the industrial purposes. So what are the industrial purposes? We'll also discuss that. Now, however, even though the state government is considering legalizing of cannabis cultivation, it is cautious about the potential increase in the drug use. So it is a major component of drugs, not just in India, in the entire world. So therefore, the government is cautious. However, the government constituted a committee. So the committee will conduct a thorough research about a thorough study about uh, cultivation of cannabis. Only then a decision will be taken. However, the cannabis cultivation has been kept under legal purview in several states. In fact, several states have allowed cultivation of cannabis. For example, Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh. In selected parts, the state allowed cultivation of cannabis owing to its industrial and healthcare benefits. In fact, Himachal Pradesh, a neighboring state, Uttarakhand, allowed cultivation of cannabis in the year 2017, along with Indian states. Uh, in fact, Uruguay, Canada, US, Austria, Belgium all are also allowed cultivation of cannabis. So let's look into the some of the industrial uses of cannabis. So the cannabis hemp can be used in production of fiber boards and furniture. The fiber boards and furniture can be produced from the hemp of cannabis plant. So hemp fibers can be used in fabrics and textiles. In fabrics, uh, uh, textiles, hemp fibers. So these are some of the industrial properties. And so hemp seed and oil cake in a range of foods and beverages. So it could also be used in food and beverages along with textiles, fabrics, fiberboards, and furniture. So therefore, it is a significant source of revenue for the state government, and it also have a significant industrial benefits, right? So it used in animal bedding, material inputs, and paper making, oil absorbent, and ethanol. Because of all these reasons, the state government of Himachal Pradesh is considering cultivation of cannabis. Now, it also have some medicinal properties. So, what are the medicinal properties? Effective medicine in cases of a chronic pain. Chronic pain is if an individual is suffering with pain continuously, right? So, it would provide relief to a person who is facing chronic pain. So it is effective in reducing neuropathic pain, and it also reduce the cancer growth and migration of cancer cells within the body from one organ of the body to the another organ of the body. So it also leads to the appetite stimulation. appetite stimulation in people with HIV/AIDS. So therefore, it has a multiple advantages and benefits. Because of these reasons, the state government is looking to cultivate or looking to legalize the cultivation of cannabis. However, the problem with legalizing cannabis is that it would further increase the overuse of drugs, especially youth. So, therefore, there should be a strict regulation even when cannabis is legalized. The use of cannabis should be strictly regulated either for the healthcare purposes or for the selective industrial uses. So, therefore, even after legalizing cannabis, its misuse can be effectively prevented. So the next news article for today's discussion is Genome India project, right? So what is the Genome India project? Genome India project is a comprehensive genomic study of 10,000 individuals being undertaken by the government of India. So Genome India project. Uh, so now before discussing the Genome India project, let's discuss some of the provisions or some of the benefits or the advantages of Genome India project, right? So this is a Genome India project from the Department of Science and Technology, Ministry of Science and Technology, Department of Biotechnology. So Genome uh, India project will help disease gene identification. So when you are able to, um, you know, map genes of different communities, different sections living in India, it will help disease gene identification, the catalog of all genetic variations in Indians to help identify diseases causing genes. When you identify the disease causing genes, it is easy for you to either use the genetic engineering techniques to reduce the impact of such disease causing genes, or make a drugs and medicines to prevent the effectiveness of such genes. And it will be a genetic basis for adverse effects and response to drugs. So this study will help uh, to understand why some people respond to some drugs, why some people develop adverse reaction depending on their genetic background. The genetic makeup of individual uh, have a different characteristics, a wide variety of characteristics. If a particular drug is administered to an individual, the individual's response is different in different people, right? So it will help understand why some people respond to some drugs and why some people develop adverse reaction to such drugs. So this will help in understanding this in a comprehensive manner. So resources for larger and cheaper genetic studies. So the resources generated by the Genome India project will help build arrays and technologies of large scale and cheaper genetic studies in India, right? So that means we have a larger genetic information. We have a resource, and that will help build arrays and technologies for the large scale and cheaper genetic studies in India. It also helps in capacity building and network. So training manpower to handle large genetic data. So these are some of the advantages of Genome India project. This is the Genome India project, and this Genome India project is conducted by. This is an initiative of Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. So in this context, let's discuss this news article. So this news article says that the the target the Genome India project targeted the genome mapping of 10,000 individuals, and 7,000 individuals genomes are successfully mapped or sequenced. So they say that 7,000 genomes are successfully sequenced, and 3,000 of these already available. So and 3,000 out of 7,000, 3,000 are already available for public to access by the researchers. So what is Genome India project? So the Genome India project is a center-backed initiative to sequence 10,000 Indian human genomes and create a a comprehensive database. First, sequence the Indian human genomes and prepare a comprehensive database. And so it says that by the end of this year, 10,000 genomes will be successfully sequenced. However, 20 institutes are involved in sequencing of genomes. But analysis and coordination is done by the Center for Brain Research, Indian Institute of Science. So they are engaged in analysis and coordination. So it is done by these two agencies, institutions. So Indian population is 1.3 billion, consists of 4,600 population groups. So within India, there are different population groups. And India have 4,600 groups. The 1.3 billion population is divided into 4,600 population groups, and many of them are endogamous. Endogamous is, the same ethnicity, or the marriage among the same geography, same ethnicity people is considered as endogamous. So most of the groups are endogamous marriages within a particular community. So thus, Indian population harbors a distinct variation, and often many diseases causing mutations are amplified. So within these groups, the disease causing mutations are further amplified, or they hold a distinct variation because of their endogamous nature. So the findings from the population-based or disease-based human genetics research from other countries, populations across the world, will not be of much use for India. So therefore, there is a need for India-specific genome sequencing that will help develop drugs, and that will also help develop a comprehensive database to further augment the research activity. So creating a database of Indian genome means that researchers anywhere can learn about genetic variants that unique to India's population, that is unique to India's population groups, and use that to customize drugs and therapies. So it is necessary to create public infrastructure. So therefore, the genomic databases, um, I mean, once we have the public infrastructure, um, such as genomic databases. So this was done in the case of the information technology, right? So the information technology has developed a huge public infrastructure, and that gives a fillip to India's biotechnology sector to uh, expand and have more valuable companies and startups. So, however, the need to build such a huge public infrastructure is through or build genome, such a genomic database infrastructure uh, involve a greater participation of private sector, or through public-private partnership, it can be further improved. So this is all about the Genomic India project. So the next news article is the track and trace system for pharmaceutical exports. So first understand what is track and trace system of pharmaceutical exports. So the track and trace system says that an integrated tracking and tracing of pharmaceutical exports by the Indian pharmaceutical companies. Here you can see uh, right from the manufacturing. So right from the manufacturing of pharmaceuticals, they are integrated uh, export level, warehouses, hospitals they are distributed to, and pharmacy they are in, and the institution they are in. So trace and track system allows the pharmaceutical at different locations within the supply chain are properly tracked, right? So it is properly tracked, and Indian government have mooted the idea of trace and track system. So drug makers get some more time. So the drug manufacturing companies have asked some more time to be part of the track and trace system for export. In prelims, you may get the question that track and trace system is related to the which of the following sector. So it is related to the pharmaceutical manufacturing sector. So drug makers have got another extension. So I mean, they have asked for another extension to be part of the trace and track system, right? So this is particularly for the export of pharmaceutical consignments. So this will prevent or this will address the counterfeiting of drugs or the product recall challenges, right? For example, if a product is recalled, when we are able to track or trace the product at different levels of supply chain, then it will be easy to recall such medicine. In case if a medicine contains pollutant, if a medicine contains pollutant, if a medicine poses a significant health threat to the people in the other country, so therefore the company have to recall such medicine. When you are able to make track and trace system easy, then it will be easier for the company to trace the medicine and its location and can easily recall it owing to uh, uh, its contaminant nature, or if it is contaminated, and this will also prevent the counterfeiting of medicines. So the date of implementation of track and trace system for export of drug formulations with respect to maintaining pharma child relationship is packaging level, right? So I mean, the date of implementation of this track and trace system for the export of these drug formulations. So it is like packaging and then uploading the information in the central portal, so that uh, the pharmaceutical export company will be able to uh, comply with the guidelines of track and trace system. So the product traceability was part of good manufacturing process. There are some good manufacturing process. Once you are able to track the medicine after manufacturing, then it would be part of the good manufacturing practice. So some of the advantages of track and trace system are, so it increases the productivity of the uh, drug, or it increases the productivity of the company, right? So it in fact generates goodwill in the market for the company, because it is end to end digitized or computerized or integrated with a network, and it will also help blocking the counterfeit drugs. So because very often it is not easy for the drug manufacturers to fight the counterfeit or substandard drugs on their own, because there's a very huge and large supply chain of counterfeiting and substandard drugs in the market. So therefore, the track and trace system will help identify the substandard or counterfeit drugs, thereby separating it from the original drug, and and can be determined with investments and cooperation of government and companies providing pharmaceutical track and trace services, right? With the track and trace solutions, we can eliminate the counterfeiting and substandard drugs entering into the market. So this is all about today's discussion. um, Thank you.